both stories are somewhat about this and pose a question, because we do say, I don't know what it is, but we do know what it is. First, there's a reminder of an old story that's been told a long time ago. And that's that story about the king who was very jaded, because the affairs of the state and taking care of all the details of his kingdom were weighing him down, so he never had any peace in his life. And he longed for some silence and peace. And he heard that there was a hermit that lived somewhere out in the forest on the far fringes of his kingdom. So he had an emissary go to this old hermit and invite him back to the palace. So when he came back to the palace, the king asked him, he said, look, I'm just burdened, I don't know what to do, I just want to find silence and peace. Can you help me? And the hermit said, well, it's very easy. He said, I live out in the forest on my own. He said, come with me. Just come with me. It's silent and peaceful out there. So the king, who was somewhat a degree of enlightenment, you might say, he thought about it for a moment, and then he said to the hermit, he said, no. He said, you know, if I came out with you and lived in that forest, because it's my nature, very soon a woodchopper would come by, or some travelers would pass by, and they would stay. And pretty soon I'd have a kingdom again to take care of. Then there's a story of Li Tzu, that great Taoist master, who decided one day that he was going to travel to the very large city of Qi. But when he got halfway there, he turned back and came back the way that he'd come. But on his way back, he bumped into one of his old, revered teachers called Ah Poh. Ah Poh said, oh, I thought you were going to Qi. And he said, I'm afraid. That's why I turned back. Li Tzu said, I stopped at 6 inns, and in every inn in which I stayed, the innkeeper treated me with great respect, falling over themselves to serve me. And the patrons all gathered around me for advice. So he said, these are simple people. They're not politicians, they don't earn a lot of money. But if they treat me like this, what's it going to be like when I get to Qi? When all of those generals and the courtiers find me and come and ask me for advice. So I'm afraid I'm going to find a quiet place. So Ah Poh said, well, just let me tell you something. Even if you find that quiet place, you're not going to be able to stop people from coming to you. Well, Li Tzu did find a quiet place. And some time later, his teacher Ah Poh happened to be passing by, and he thought he'd call in to see his old student Li Tzu, but when he got there were all his shoes outside the door. So he gave a deep sigh and walked off. But one of the students inside had seen him and quickly told Li Tzu, oh, your old teacher was just outside. So barefoot, Li Tzu ran out and chased him and said, Master, Master, why didn't you come in and give me some teaching? And Ah Poh said, I have nothing to say. I told you that even if you did not desire it, people would come and flock around you. He said, you display your virtue and your accomplishments, and so people come to you to learn. From this, neither they nor you derive any benefit. And then there's just that anecdote about the very great Master Ramakrishna. He worshipped Mother Kali, and in the early days he went to Mother Kali and he said, "Please, do not let my light shine." And his wish was granted. And yet, thousands upon thousands of people gathered around him. And there's another phenomenon, witnessed personally. In attending a couple of years ago that Happiness and Its Causes conference in Sydney, at which the Dalai Lama attended. At that time, it was observed and even remarked to those who I was with, the Dalai Lama has no light around him. And yet, millions of people gather around him. And when we hear these several stories and these anecdotes, and we have our own tales to tell, we can ask the question, what's the similarity or the difference? Or more deeply, what is the law or the laws that are operational in these instances? We have to really look inside ourselves. Our nature and the laws. And it's to do with that question. What's the relationship between our auric field, our emanation, and this that is there when presence and attention, silence and stillness, perpetual openness and receptivity, the abyss is there. The only way you can answer this question or have understanding of what these laws are is to experience them for yourself. As one is related, we've all had them. We're all having them. They give us a clear possibility of knowing how it is. What is our relationship with life? How do these two work together? We need to know. We need to answer this question. And to this must be added. Are you a slave to your own nature?